like to get up close and personal with my opinions.
All up in your business
All
with
up
my
in your
opinions.
right? Opinions.
Opinions. That's what we're here for.
We here. We good. Right?
My God. We are ready.
I feel like this episode is a long time coming. I feel like we've talked about it a little bit, and now we here.
We have talked about this a lot, you and I.
Right?
So this is going to be an interesting conversation. The
I think
first of
so.
its kind, too.
Yes, especially
The first
here
of
on
many.
our podcast. We alluded to it, I think, in our March reads episode. I mean, we're so far in April right now that I'm like, oh, it's already June. It's fine. Like,
We're just moving on. It's the holidays.
it is-
Welcome to Christmas.
happy 2026. That's where we are right now. But today we're talking ARC reads, which I'm excited about. Spoiler alert, I finished another one this morning that I added to my list. I read it this morning, and we'll talk it. But for those who are unaware, ARC reads are advanced reader copies, and usually they are copies that are given to, or someone is selected to read them ahead of the actual publication of the book in order to either get feedback or collect reviews so that when they launch it on like an Amazon or something like that, it's already got things behind it, so people know like, hey, this is a thing that I would like to read. And so Abby and I have recently gone ahead and given it a good dive into
Dove
the
in
ARC
head
world.
first.
Right, very much head first. Like I don't even think I took a breath. I was just like, yes, let's, and just went.
Yes.
I will say the best place for ARC reads is Threads. 100%.
Agreed.
Best place. My next 2 months, I think, are full of ARC reads. Where like I'm like, oh, I've got a couple where I'm like, oh, I'm planning that, or I have like a whole little chart now where I have to like fill it out and make sure that I have, because I don't want to miss anything, right? Because for me, an ARC read is like a special present, right? Because somebody has put their heart and soul.
You.
Right? They've given me their child, and they're like, please read it and tell me if you like it. And I'm like, okay, great. But it's also, I take it very seriously, which I think is funny. I take it very seriously, as in like, I said I would read it by this date. I'm going to read it. I will review it. I'll put it wherever I need to put it. Like, those are the things that we're doing with it. And so when people come back and they're like, oh, they ghosted me, I'm like, how could you ghost someone after like they chose you?
That? Yes.
Right? They chose you to read their book.
You had one job.
Just all they did was ask you to read. And here's the thing. If you didn't like the book, right? If it wasn't for you, if it is something that it's just not your forte, your cup of tea. And they say a lot of them when like they hand you the book, when they're like, here, like email delivery. If you didn't like the book, please let me know. Or if you're going to rate it less than 3 stars, please let me know. And we, you don't have to do that, because they do want, those who enjoyed it to they know that it's not everybody's.
Yes.
Not everybody's
and the constructive criticism.
Yes.
If there's things that they can change, that's maybe not just an opinion about, oh, I didn't like this book.
Right.
But like, hey, this doesn't connect, or this doesn't make sense, or something like that. That way it's not blasted for everyone, but also like it's something that they can fix. But if it's not your cup of tea, like it's your cup of wine. If it's not your cup of wine, then, that happens. And that does happen. And it doesn't mean anything negative on the author or you. Like, we encounter this in already printed books, You never know what you're going to get.
We've talked about. There are books where we're like, it was a 2, right? Which doesn't mean it was a terrible book. It just means that like it wasn't my favorite, or it wasn't a topic I liked.
Me.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I read a good number of ARCs over the last probably month.
Same. However, I am so scared to get more.
Why?
The ones that I chose were perfect. Perfect. And we're going to talk about it.
Right.
But I'm like, what are the chances that I get 5-star, borderline 6-star that fit me perfectly? Like, am I going to be able to choose more like that?
Can I do that? Can I do more of that?
And I'm terrified now.
Right. I see it as a challenge, right? I feel like this will get me in trouble. Much like someone who is addicted to drugs, I'm constantly seeking the high of a 5-star book. Right?
Yeah.
So like, I feel like ARC reads are like my drug, where I'm kind of like, oh, like, is this going to be like,
give me this
right?
one. Let me try this
Let me try this one. And I love that I have several that are like so different. I have like a cyber something one. I have like a romantasy one. I have like elves and fairies. I have like, there are so many things I have that are different. And every time they're like, hey, where are all of my blank, blank, blank readers? I'm like, that's me. You just put the word reader in there. I'm in, right? Let's go.
Right. We can skip all of those in front. Reader. Hello.
Reader.
Here.
Done. I have also, that doesn't mean that I'll read absolutely everything, right? There are certain, like, I'm not a huge thriller, suspense person. Just not. Like, the world is worlding. And so I don't necessarily need more of that in my space. So I know a friend of mine is a really avid suspense and a thriller reader, and somebody was like, oh, I'm looking for thriller ARC readers or whatever, and I immediately tagged her and I was like, hey, this might be for you. Like, I love being able to like connect that too, and being like, hey, you might absolutely love this. Like, I might not, but they're looking for people, and I know like you're a good reader and you love doing that thing, so here, this is for you. And I think it's kind of fun to connect in that way too. So
yes, you really do build, like, it feels very much like community, and that's probably why Threads is the best place to get it, because it does feel like a smaller community where we're all in it together and we're all like on the same path. And 100%. So it does feel good to find those there, because I think community is the key word. And like, I don't know, it when you read, I'm gonna say like a regular book, but I don't mean it, you know what I mean, like a book, like a book mass produced, we'll go with that. When you're reading that, it's almost like the author is beyond you.
Yes.
Like, they're untouchable. There's someone that you will never meet. It's like, oh, you're the author. But in an ARC book, you're like, this is a person on the other side of that. This is someone that you can connect with. This is someone that you can chat with about the book. So, like, it just feels like it closes the gap a little bit more and makes it a little more cozy.
Right. It makes it a little bit more real. And not to say that like somebody who has a mass produced book is somebody that I'm never going to like want to interact with. Of course I do. Right.
Right.
But I feel like there's something so special about getting to talk to the author, or getting to like give that, like hand them my review and be like, here's the things I thought about your book. Like, thank you for letting me read it. Right. And so I just have this feeling of closeness. And then I feel a little bit more excited when I'm sharing or recommending or tagging, right? Because I know they're going to see it. Like if I tag like somebody huge and out there, the likelihood of them seeing it after everything that they get on the daily on their socials, they're not going to see what I wrote, right? But somebody who is just putting their book out, or they're getting started in their writing journey or whatever, they're going to be a little bit more attached to the interactions on their social media. And so it's nice to be able to interact and be like, hey, yes, I liked this, and yes, I read it, and here I posted it. And then like they repost your story and you're like, oh, that's so fun.
Oh my God, it's you. It's me.
We're friends.
Real.
We're book
it's
friends.
happening.
So let's get into some of these, because I know we have several, but we read the first one, the same first book.
Yes.
And I know we read the same first book. So the first book that we read was part of a series. The whole series is not out yet, but the book itself is called Aetherwood, and it is, there it is. See? And it is by Catherine Parish, which is somebody I actually know in real life. She has her own podcast as well. She has a true crime and paranormal podcast. So it's one that I've gotten to be on several times. She's been very kind in letting me come on and just unleash my chaos into the world that way. And so she has written this, and as you noticed when Abby held it up, it's a good size book.
She a good size.
Like she thick with C's, right? And so it was one that like you kind of sit down and like cuddle up with and like have a reading sesh, right?
Yes.
I will say this is a dark romance. So if you ain't a dark romance person, you might want to think about it. Right? Because you're going to get into it. And there's several things we cannot get into on this podcast.
There are several. I would say emphasis on the romance.
Yes.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, right there. Yes.
Right? So there's a genre for people who are like, hey, I mean, the whole like idea of smut is encapsulated in this story. Right? So it's one of those where like I probably can't read it out loud to my kids, nor is it a good idea to do so. And I'm probably gonna be a little wary about my mom reading it, just because like then I know what she read. I know what she saw with her eyes.
I know what you saw with your eyes.
I saw it with my eyes, but I also know that she saw it with her eyes, and I'm not sure I'm ready to share that yet. Sorry, Mom. Not that I don't think you can handle it. I just don't know that we need to handle the same things, right? Feels
we don't need to know that the other is doing and knowing of the things.
Right, of the things. So that's not really a book club book that I'm going to discuss with my mother. But if I'm in like a romance thing or something like that, definitely will fit into that genre, right?
We had a lot of discussions about this along the way too. Like this was a heavily conversed book.
Yes.
Between us.
It was. And I will tell you, my favorite character in this book, I'm not going to give anything away, no spoilers in these. I will tell you my favorite character is one that we actually don't get to see a lot, but I do believe that we will get to see more of this human at some point in future stories, should they and when they come out. My favorite character was Jade. I just really liked her name.
Yes. Yes.
Loved her name. Jade and the Cats, but that's all I'm going to say about that. But I will say that Catherine really took her time with the descriptions of like the scene setting and like where you were and what you were looking at and how you were feeling, and so like all of those things, there was a lot of detail paid to those, and so there was a good amount of description in there, so you really could feel like you knew what you were looking at.
It was very descriptive, and there was no question as to the scene unfolding before you.
Right? And where you were and what you were looking at and what you were wearing and all those things. So for somebody who doesn't typically put herself in the main character's perspective or the perspective of the speaker, I knew what I was doing. I knew what it looked like.
We knew what we were looking at. Yes.
Exactly. So that like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but want to thank Catherine for, letting us read that one, and to know that that one's already released. So that one's already released out on Amazon, and I think it is the Realms of Elaria series.
It is.
If I said, and hopefully I did not butcher any of those names, right?
It is. Yes. See? You can see.
Look at that.
Yes.
Perfect. And Catherine has several other books as well. So she's already a published author on Amazon.
I think book 2 of this one is on its way.
Yeah.
It is in progress, because I was going to say, I think I saw it. So if you are into the dark romance, I would say dark romantasy. This was heavy into the fantasy as well.
Yeah, because you've got fae, you've got talking animals, you've got fae with a variety of different, what is the word I'm trying to look for? Preferences? Mm-hmm. Preferences? Something like that? So you've got you have vampirism and there's all sorts of things in there, as well as, magic and
fated lovers, and
exactly. No dragons. No dragons.
But we've had enough dragons.
We have had
We didn't need dragons.
Right? I think this is one of the ones I took to read when I needed my dragon break.
Yes.
I needed my dragon pause. So, but definitely I would say you are correct, in the dark romantasy. There we go. I was like, I have to say all of those letters. So, right? That is definitely, and I think that's the only one of the same that we've read that was the same, right?
Correct. Yes, that's the one that kicked us off. And then we were like,
Oh, I like this ARC idea.
I dipped my toe in with this one, and then I just dove in and
kept going. I will say this is probably the longest one I read. The longest ARC I read was the Aetherwood one.
So it's hard for me to tell, because this was
everything else is digital.
Only physical book. So the digital books, you don't really know. I don't really pay attention, because it's not like you pick it up and you can see it. It's like contained. Yeah. So you have to forcibly hold the page, look to see how many there are. Although it is nice because you don't have to hide your eyes from the last couple pages.
No, because it just tells
when you're looking for the number. Yes.
Seeing the percentage on the bottom of my little Kindle reader is more exciting to me than many other things. Right? I am the person who likes to see, if I do a Peloton bike ride or something where it's percentage finished. I'm I love to see what percentage I have already completed. So when I get to the book and it's percentage complete, it's 51% read. I'm I am over halfway done. Just because it feels exciting. It feels like I've done something. So I will agree. That is the only physical book I read. Every other ARC book that I read, and most of the ones that people will get, are digital. Because that's the easiest way before print that you're going to get anything out there anyways.
Yes.
So what is your next one? What did you read next?
So next, I went in. Funny story. I went in and there was one that just popped up right away, and it was called A Vision of Lights. And I did not read the little blurb.
Description?
I saw the cover. And it was very much like the little triangle, and now I can't even think of the little, like a witch's knot.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We can show it. We'll pull up a thing.
We'll put it up there. And we'll put up all the
yeah.
Right? We'll put all of the cover
links,
photos too. Yeah,
links,
cover photos,
cover
all
photos.
that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Links.
So
we're gonna give you all the information. So it popped up, and I was like, "Ooh, I like that cover." I definitely judge this book by its cover. I said, "Ooh, I like that cover." So I clicked on it, and there was a warning that this was book 2, and I was like, "Oh, sad. I need book 1." And then I was like, "I wonder if it's still available." And it was, also then linked, and I clicked on it, and they were like, book 1 is available. There's a couple of spots left, and you just didn't have as long to read it because it's already out.
Right.
And I was like, not a problem. I can get through that in however many days it gave me.
Right.
I was like, okay. And so book 1 is called The Grey Prophecy. And the tagline for it was like, it looked almost kind of like a Ouija mover thing, but it was like you'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah. With the magic of editing. And so I saw that and I was like, okay. And the tagline was something like, if you kill a celestial witch, the prophecies die with her.
Oh.
And I was
so we know it's magic. We know it's real magic.
It's magic in the real world. I'm like, oh my God, that and the picture, I'm in, right?
Right.
And so it has the whole blurb. And then the bottom sentence said, if you loved something or a discovery of witches, you'll enjoy this. And I was like, I loved A Discovery of Witches. I will. Okay, everything is lining up. I'm clicking on this. So this is the ARC. So these are the 2. Yes. And I'm like, ooh, it's a 2-for-1 because I didn't realize this was a series. So I read Grey Prophecy. So good. This girl, there's in this book, there's 4 different types of witches. She's a celestial witch, so she has the power of like foresight. Ooh. Or maybe not foresight, but like she gets visions from the stars because she's a celestial witch. So her power comes from the stars. And when she's 12, she delivers this prophecy that basically says that people who are using magic for dark, for wrong, for bad will cease to exist. That magic is going away and everyone will lose their power.
Right.
And it's given on when the stars align to a certain thing. And I think it ends up being like 10 or 15 years down the road.
Right.
But now she has to go into hiding because people will try to kill her. So that the prophecy doesn't come true.
Right. Because if you killed a witch, okay. Got it.
Yes. So that's how we kind of circle back. And I was like,
all right, what a target.
So then no spoilers, but she does end up in a little town in Maine.
Aww.
And it like brings everything together. Like the little cozy, the magic, the small town with like the small sea town, surrounded by water. It was, oh my God, it was impeccable. Maria A. Eden, you're friggin' genius. I love this book. Okay. And so then I legit read this in 2 days. And then I immediately jumped into the second one, the original one that I had seen.
Right.
And I mean, which I was not as excited about because we come to dislike the main character of the second book.
Okay.
And so I was a little torn, but I was like, I love this story and these people, they feel almost like friends of yours. Like you kind of pictured yourself in the little
hanging out
tavern, the local tavern. And like, so it was fantastic. These were legit like the highest 5-star ratings I could give. Oh, so good.
God, it just feels good, right? It just it almost feels like a hug where you're like, this is it. I just want to be hugged by my book. I wrote that on Threads yesterday, I think it was. Somebody was like, needed a hug, went to the bookstore instead. I was like, books have a front cover and a back cover. That, my friend, is a hug.
Same. Yes.
I was like, you just hugged your brain. It's fine.
Yes. So
that's awesome. I love
those
that.
were mine. I love those. Those were my first foray into picking ARC books, and I really set the bar so high for myself.
Now you're like, do I
on
do more?
these? But also, like, these are the books that I love and enjoy. Right. And it was very interesting to see other people's reviews on these books, because I'm like, you're wrong. You're so wrong. Why would you say that? Why do you think that? Like, absolutely not.
It's fine. You're like, I'll fix it for you.
I loved that part. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
I'm a big fan of, especially in ARC books, leaving a review that doesn't spoil anything, because I know in some places you can like do reviews with spoilers, right? So you can do reviews with spoilers. I'm not a spoiler person. I don't like to spoil things, especially if it's an ARC book, because I'm like, my review is supposed to help.
People are still reading,
right? Not a lot of people have read it yet because it's not out. So like, don't blow the punchline. So I totally get that. I mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, along the lines of reviews, maybe I overthink them too much, but I want to describe the feeling that I got, because when I go looking for a book, I don't want you to regurgitate what the cover said, or, you know, what the synopsis is or whatever, but like, tell me how it made you feel, because then I'll kind of know, like, if I want to dive into that, if it takes too much brain, if it takes too much emotion, you know, like, I guess that's mood reading. I guess you could call it that.
Possibly.
But it's like, I don't give spoilers. I try to give the feeling of like what you're going to experience, so that you have that with the words of the book that you can read. Yeah. You know, so that's how I like to give my reviews. That's what I try to do.
That makes sense. And that's kind of what I did with one of the ones that I had mentioned in the March book overview that we did, our March recap, the lowercase, the book Lowercase, which is one of the ones that one of the ARC ones that I read that I said I'd talk about here, and I gave a brief overview of that previously, but in my review I remember writing like, this book is going to take the place of some of my feel-good movies. Like, that's how it made me feel. Like, it helped me feel feelings in a way that, like, sometimes we don't process the hard stuff. And so this was definitely a very good book. It's by Hayley B. Halliwell, and it definitely, as I said before, it definitely hits in on some of those really hard topics, and some of the ones that we just don't see when we're grieving through many things, right? Grieving through loss, grieving through change, grieving through whatever it might be. And so there's certain emotions that you don't typically see. And in cozy reads, we're not looking at those, right? In a cozy read, I'm not looking at, you know, somebody healing from X, Y, and Z. I'm looking at, you know, the excitement, the fun, the whatever. There's not a lot of like deep work. And I feel like Hayley did such a nice job in Lowercase marrying the deep work with the everyday, where it was like, hey, there's a lot of stuff that this person's going through. Our main character's trying to handle all of it. And yet there's still, like, life is still happening. So we still have to balance, like, what this looks like with what we're going through. And I think on a human level, something we do every day, right? We do this. We don't live in books. We human every day. And it was so close to what we do when, like, hard things happen. And hard things happen to everybody. And so the fact that we have to hard through the hard things and still live life. And so I think that she did such a lovely job in putting those two things together in a way that was enjoyable and memorable, right? It could have been, there are certain books that I've read that have torn me to pieces, right? Where I've been like, this has ripped me apart and put me back together, and I will never be the same. But also they fade, right? Yeah. We're weeks out, almost a month out probably from me reading this book, and I'm still like recommending it. Still recommending it highly.
And I know we had talked about that, and you had recommended it. Yeah, because I was like, you should read it. Yes. And I was going to. I've just not been in a place that I could handle that right now.
Yeah, which is fair.
And so I was like, you know what? I'll let you talk about it, and I'll know that it's there. Yes.
Right? But knowing that you're like, oh, that's not a thing that I'm looking for in my mood is not that. But I think that kind of a review, going back to that note, that kind of a review really helps when I am looking for something. That is helpful. Yeah. Because sometimes I just look at those books on my shelf and I'm like, I don't remember you. Like,
not ready for you.
I'm like, I don't think I'm ready to read you yet. Yeah. You're not giving me the cozy vibes I want quite right now.
Yes. So. You do that, you get excited and you're like, no, I'm not in that same mood. that I was when I bought the book.
Yes. I have one that I'm hanging on to that I haven't read yet, and I like it's one of those that I kind of want to like sit on because I really want to read it, but I also like really want to focus on it. And so I'm trying to find the time. Like, do I read it on a plane? Do I read it sitting at a book retreat? Do I read like where am I going to read this book? And so that's where it's sitting there waiting for me. I just need to get there.
Yeah. You just need the space for it. Yes. And the time is not now.
No, because I have other things that I'm reading. I'm in the middle of other things. And so I'm like, okay.
We are riding that ARC wave.
Right now, I'm 100%, given the fact that I have several other books like on my list here, I'm like, I have other things. What else did you read?
Tell me more. No, those were mine. I lumped them together.
Perfect.
I lumped them together.
Good, because I will just keep going. So we talked last time.
Tell us more.
We talked last time about Two Worlds Apart by Lenora Cade. Love the the cover of it, which you've seen before and you'll see again.
Super cute.
So cute. Yes. And there's a second book, which I didn't realize. And so going back through it, like, and looking at it or whatnot, and I'm on like Lenora's email list and things like that. And so I've joined all those things. And so we read the book about Mallory and Emil, and we get to hear about how, you know, they meet and the things that they go through. And then I hear there's a book about the sister. And she's not a big character in the first book. And so like she's mentioned a couple of times, so you know she exists, but I hear, and she's a very different character than Mallory is.
How fun.
Right? Like super different. Like
that's fun.
The way that most sisters are, right? Like you have a sister, I have a sister. Like we are very different from our siblings. We have very similar characteristics in some ways, but then we're also very different. And so it's going to be, I'm super excited. Right? And so I'm like, okay. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she started reading the book about the sister or writing the book about the sister first. And then Mallory's story came up and Mallory was like, I need you to tell my story. And so that's how this one came out first. And I love knowing that.
That's very cool. Is Mallory a firstborn or is she the secondborn?
I think she's the younger one.
Oh, okay.
I think
that could be why.
I think Sydney is older. And so I think the second book about Sydney is going to be very interesting and a little less travel focused, right? I love that in this book, and it definitely, like, the fact that I'm going on a few trips, like, ignited my excitement for going and doing new things, especially in a place where I'm not going to be surrounded by my family. Like, I'm going on my own essentially when I head over and things like that. So it was definitely tied timeline wise very closely to what I get to do, and so it kind of made me a little bit more excited for some of that stuff.
Nice.
So yes, highly recommend that one as well. Too. Yes, and I'm telling you, like,
and now that there's a book too.
Yes, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. And I think I did that twice. The next one I read was actually what they call a middle grade book. And I don't like, and so right. And that's like middle school age. Yes. Sorry.
I think so. Yes.
Hair that's hanging out on my face. Anyway, it's a middle school aged book. Cause I went to read it and I was like, all right, I'm looking for something to read that's easy and quick that I just can like get into. And the author answered me on Threads and was like, hey, try this one out. And I was like, oh, okay. It's called The Book Witch, which we love, right? We love books. We love magic. We love all the things. So I was like, all right, cool. And I got into it and I think I texted you and I was like, again, did not read anything really about it.
No, we judged it by the cover.
Right. And I was like, this is adorable. So I got into it and I was like, I think this might be for children. And once I figured out and I was like, oh, this is like a book that somebody like in end of elementary school, middle school, whatever could read, it made a lot more sense to me. And I was like, oh, this is freaking adorable.
Yes.
Right? So it's about a girl whose mom works at the library. Things are going on in her life and they're getting ready to demolish the town librry. And basically she finds out she has the power to try and save it. And so it's her journey of trying to figure out what exactly happens, like what she learns about herself, the history of the library itself, you know, people in the town. It's a small town. It's very cute to the point that I actually said to Addie, and I was like, hey, I'm reading this book. When I'm done, you can have it. And she was like, what? And I was like, I'll hand you my iPad. You can read it on my iPad. And she was like, really? I said, yes, I think you're going to love this book. And she was like, okay. And then like, I think it took me like a day to read, right? Maybe 2 days, because the second day she was like, are you finished yet? And I was like, not yet. I was like, right? I was like, I'll be finished tonight. You can have it tomorrow. And she was like, okay, you know, that sort of thing. But of course we're in the middle of reading all sorts of different things as well. But that one is by Catherine Lee. I think the pronunciation of the last name is Kulik, something like that. I'll write it up here. Not a problem. But again, something that I'm excited to have Addie read, and just to kind of, I've also been reading a lot of things on my devices right now, so I haven't exactly handed my iPad over.
We have not done that yet.
Right, but we will, because I told her that she would love it. And so it's a really cute story. It's, it talks again about some things that they go, starting a new grade and being in middle school and the changes that friends go through, and like how we're not always the center of we're the center of our universe, but we're not the center of everything. So sometimes we have to step out and look at everybody else and realize that they're not, they don't care as much about us as we care about ourselves. And so it's,
Yes. And that we have really the power, even as a middle school child, if you love something and want to save something or want to do something about it, you can. There are things you can do. And I love that empowerment.
Yeah. The ability to affect change.
Yes. Because I feel like that's not something I learned from books
Yeah.
when I was younger. So I love that I can recognize that now in other books. And I love that you can pass that along.
And it's nice to be able to find something that I feel is positive and doesn't make me go, oh, I don't know if I want her to read that. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain books where I'm like, I think she would love this, but also maybe not yet. Like, this is one where I'm like, she's going to love this. Yes. Right? And it might be a little bit higher than her current reading level, but I think it's something she can do. But it also might give us a chance, right? I think it will be the first. Yeah. It'll be the first book that she and I read separately and get to discuss. And so that I think is really exciting. Ooh. Where I'm like, oh, my own mini book club.
Yes,
right.
Someone else to talk inside books my with.
Own home, right? And then she's hooked. So sorry, girl, you're in. I read one more. Okay. So I think I had 5. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5, and I will tell you, as I mentioned earlier, I started and finished this book today.
Yes.
Right. It's a quick read, and it's almost like a romantic comedy story, right? Ooh, it's called Inked to Love, and it's by Angelique Bosman, and she has another book out as well that I think came out previous to this. They're both on Amazon. And so this one, I was like, oh, it's on the list. I need to make sure that I read it and whatever. And so I started it. I literally started this morning. Like, the kids had to take a shower, and I was like, oh, I'll just wait. Like, they're getting ready to go to school. I was like, I'll just read a couple of pages, right? So I read a couple pages, take the kids off to school, and then end up sitting down. I set an alarm because I had work to do. Like, I have a job. And so I have things to do. I sat down, set my alarm, and was like, okay, you can read until like 8:45. Finished like 60% of the book. And I was like, well, now I'm done. Like, now I have to finish.
Now I have to keep going. Yes.
Yeah. It was a good 150 pager, right? It was enough to have like the meat of the story. It's about Jack, who is a tattoo artist, and Daisy, who owns a bakery, which you know how much I love a bakery owner.
We love that.
I love a bakery owner.
Yes.
And, they're surrounded by people who, are friends. They both own their own businesses, and they're just kind of at a place where they're like, would love to meet somebody, but like life is too busy. And it's how they basically end up meeting each other, the things that they go through. There's a little bit of conflict in there, of course, but nothing that I was like, oh, I don't feel good about this, or like, that's traumatic. Like, it was just nice. It was like real people.
Just pleasant. We love this.
It was real people. Yes. It was super easy to to enjoy and to just literally lose myself in for the morning, which is why I knew I was going to have to set an alarm on.
Yes.
I told my device, I was like, hey, set an alarm for it, because I knew that I would get lost, and I knew I was
and then you wouldn't want to come up for air.
Right. I will consume this entire
yes.
thing. And so I do remember checking the time at one point and being like, I can still, I still have minutes.
Do I have
time? I have 13 minutes. I'm going to keep reading, and I'm going to sit my butt right here, and I'm going to read it, because that's the feeling I want from a book.
Yes.
Right. And so if an author can do that, I had this conversation yesterday with actually a dad at softball practice. He and I were talking, and I was like, I read so much. I don't think I could be an author. Like, I have so many ideas, but I don't know. I know what I love, and I know what I enjoy, and I know what I like to read as far as like a structure. I don't know that I could weave the story.
No, I have that same thought where I'm like, you get this piece and you're like, that's obscure, but I know that that's going to tie to something. Right. Mm-hmm. And how do you build that piece?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, how do you, and then we're bringing, and you're not like, because I think the beauty of these books is that you can see all these people writing or beginning to write and you're there for all of that.
Yeah.
But you're like, how does your brain, like, I think it would just overwhelm me.
Right.
Because I would want to be like, look at this point. Look at this point. It's going to come back. Know
put
this.
A check mark.
Know
like,
this.
I'm putting emojis in it where it's like, star.
Yeah. Asterisk. This is a foot stomp. Remember that. You know, like I see. And then to be on the other side and see the readers who are picking up on like all these little hints or like the slightest little thing. They're like, oh, I think this ties to this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how
did you
how do
build
you
that?
even think like that?
Right?
Yes.
And the other part is how much of the things that we pick up as readers were unintentional. They were just a good part of the story. I wonder, like, and so in having this conversation, he was like, oh, I've done some outlines for like different stories. He's like, I'm not a writer, but I do like, I'll do outlines for things for like in my spare time. And I'm like, in your spare time? I'm like,
in your spare time.
I was like, I said,
just do book outlines?
That's your creative outlet? I'm like, how freaking cool is that?
Yes.
That you were like, oh, I'm going to think about, you know, X, Y, and Z and throw it in there, you know, add a sprinkle of dragons and a little bit of magic and maybe some sunshine on a dark day. And like, now you have a story. Like, I don't, right? I just don't think I have all of the pieces, right? Mm-mm. And I don't know that
I'm a great reader.
I'm a wonderful reader.
Great reader.
Great reader. It reminds me of like, you know how you have food critics, right? You have a food critic who goes and they taste all these things and they eat all of these things. Not all of them are chefs. Many of them are not, right? Mm-hmm. And so it just, part of me is like, how dare I have an opinion about a book? Because I'm not a writer, but at the same time, I'm a consumer. And so that's what it's about. Right. That's my forte, is the consuming of said pieces of literature versus the creation of them.
For the pure enjoyment of just enjoying the world that the author built.
Somebody else had the audacity and the strength to create, because it's incredibly audacious, right? Incredibly audacious to be like, I'm going to create something out of literal words on a page that will live in your brain. Mm-hmm. And I had this conversation with the kids because when we're reading our nighttime story, and Addie has started to write notes. So she'll write questions down while I'm reading. And then after I'm finished with the chapter, she's like, I have questions. And we'll sit there and we'll talk about it. And there are certain things that she's like, well, why did they do that? Like, why did they say it like that? Why do they talk so much about the scene, or why do they talk so much about, you know,
she's gonna be one that finds the Easter eggs and like figures it all out. Yes.
And I finally told her, I said, because when you're reading, it's like you're creating a movie in your brain. Mm-hmm. I said the writer is attempting to get you to see what they see so you can understand the full story and get the full picture. And she was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. I'm like, yeah. Because when she's like where she is in her writing, it's like, I went to the store and we found 3 eggs and one of them smashed on the floor, right? But she's not talking about the store or the cold floor or the fact that they were in the dairy side. Like, she's not doing that part yet. And so getting to see it is so much different than creating it.
Yes.
So all of that to say that while ARC reader I am, ARC writer I am not.
No, but I appreciate the 100%. Authors who are putting their stuff out there, who are lending us their ideas and their passion projects. Like, who knows, you know?
And they're little book babies. That's what I'm telling you. Like, when someone hands it to me and it's like, here's my book baby. I'm like, treat it with care. I'm like, I will be sure to support its neck. Like,
yes. Right? And I think I'm more supportive of that when they say they're looking for a specific reader, because I want them to find those people who are going to be like, this is my perfect book. I gave you 5 stars. And if I'm not like, I feel like there's a little more pressure. Like, if I'm not fully that reader, I'm going to pass, because I don't want to not make you succeed.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
which is why I appreciate they're doing these things on social media where they have like a picture of the book and then it's got all the little like arrows where it's like, you know, enemies to lovers, dark romance, blah, blah, blah. And so it's like all these different, I'm like, I like that, because I, visual human, am very much like, oh, here are all, I'm picking up on those keywords that I really like in a story. You're one I want to read. And even if it's not, because, and there are books where it's like, oh, I didn't make the ARC team. Like, cool, I'm adding you to my Amazon wish list.
But it's on my list.
When it comes out, I'm going to read it anyway.
Because it will be available for everybody. So it's not like you have to be chosen to read it. You're just getting the honor of reading it first,
And it
but
is an
also
honor.
the privilege of helping them so that other people do see it. Yes.
And I will say that there are certain books that I have read as ARC reads digitally that I will actually go and purchase.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I just need to have, right? I just want to have them. And I didn't ever think I was a book trophy person. I think I'm a book trophy person. Like I want to be able to have it so I can hand it and be like, if I'm giving it to somebody in the family,
that's
like,
why.
Take this, because I'm not gonna break the rules and send my digital copy to somebody, right? Like I will say, I did reach out to, I think it was Lenora. I actually reached out to her and I was like, hey, I really want my cousin to read this book. I know it's an ARC book. Like, do you mind if I share it? I know, like, I wouldn't share it otherwise because you just don't do that. And so I think it's such a risk for people to put out because now they're getting ARC reads and they're being uploaded to places and like it just sucks. So I feel so responsible for treating these ARC books with respect and to do my part for it because somebody trusted me with that. And I also signed I checked a box that said I promise not to do X, Y, and Z.
I will not do that.
X, Y, and Z.
So I will not do that.
Right. So I would love to know what other books people are reading as far as ARC books. What authors, like what up and coming authors are you loving? Because I want to add more of those, right? I love a good like popular read or whatever, but I'm also so much more enjoying some of the small reads, like some of the ones that I just didn't know about. So what is everybody reading? Tell me your books.
Point me to more of the cozy magic witchery things. Right. Point me to those that you are loving because that definitely my lane. I love those. Right. So help me.
Somebody had written the other day, they were like, anything that I can fall into. And I'm like, yes, that is the thing. Give me something I can fall into.
Yes.
And I'm happy. So a big shout out to all of our ARC authors. I know some of the books are already out. Some of them are waiting to be released, but we will put all of the links to everything in the comments below as well, or into the description below. And then you should have seen all of the titles up here and cover, because I'm really good at remembering cover photos better than I am titles, as we've seen in
titles.
The
past. Yes.
I will say that I wrote down all the titles, so they are all correct in this one.
Yes. And some of these are still available. So jump in if it feels, if you feel so inclined, jump in and then find us on Instagram or on Threads and let us know what you thought of the book. Oh, or even leave a comment below because, it's cool. Subscribe in 25 and then leave comments. We'll have to make
comments, and even like that like to view ratio is really great for us to see what you all are enjoying. So make sure if it's a video that you did enjoy that you do click the little thumbs up button.
Clicky, clicky.
Clicky, clicky. But otherwise, we will see you on the next one because we have much more to discuss.
So many more to come.
Until then, happy reading.
Bye.
It was great to have you join us for today's chat. If you'd like to continue the conversation, provide a recommendation, or simply say hi, pop over to Instagram at wine.read.wine. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Happy reading!